Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Patrick Curley, your friendly neighborhood investor here, back again with Gary Shevitz, the deal negotiator, master transaction coordinator, and all-around unicorn agent, Gary Shevitz. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing pretty well. Are we still on for pizza tonight, Patrick?
I wouldn't miss it for the world, my friend.
All right.
I'm
I
looking
might
forward to
need to
it.
push it back a little later.
Hey, you know what? I'm in Palm Springs, so you just tell me. I'm flexible. I
Yeah,
do have to
well,
be back here at 7, but
okay.
we have a guest today, a special guest today, James French. James, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey, what's up? I'm a Subto student. Been a part of Subto since December of last year. So, I guess I'm going on about a little over 9, 10 months. I've been really fascinated about real estate for an extremely long time. I was actually contractor, home inspector, carpenter. I used to do a lot of fixing and flipping from '04 to '09. Then life kind of changed with the economy, and I had kids and stuff. So I kind of took a little backseat with some stuff. And then, yeah, and then just got full into getting back into the construction world, doing a lot of multifamily stuff. And then really just trying to figure out how I wanted to get back into real estate and studying like bigger pockets, reading books and stuff, and just started connecting and making stuff happen. And jumping into Subto was a huge thing for me because I got around so many people that were actually doing the work, and you could talk to people and get information and see what they're doing. And it like power boosted me to actually to go out and to do stuff. Really gave me the knowledge, the courage to do stuff. And it's been a tremendous help, and it's been an amazing journey so far. And I got to thank Gary. Gary's been a big part of like the stuff that I've been doing. I've been dealing with Gary for a little bit, and we talk quite a bit, and he's been a huge part of my, I guess I'm not really crazy successful yet, but getting there, and I will be successful for sure. I'm bound and determined to make this happen more than anything. Like I live real estate like all day, every day. I mean, I'm so passionate about it. I love it. I'm into all kinds of stuff. So,
well, and have you closed the deal yet? You did. One, it was what state?
I did one in California and in Tennessee so far.
Well, you got
And
one. The very first deal you got under contract was Joshua Tree, right?
yeah, but that one didn't close. That one was so back and
It's going to
forth.
close next week, my friend.
Yeah, and then my Tennessee one closed, and then I actually I have bought my house creatively like in 2013 before it was even creative. Like I ended up reading some books and just trying to figure out how I could buy a house in San Diego because it was expensive even in 2013 because I was a carpenter. So just read some books, talked to people, and nobody like real estate agents and mortgage brokers that I was dealing with in the past. Like everybody's like, no, you can't do it. Cause I was really trying to do a lease option to buy. And so it was, cause I found the property, I found somebody who was willing to do it. And, but I couldn't find the paperwork, couldn't find anybody to help me. So it was a huge struggle, and it ended up working out. As long as you can just have your mind focused at making it happen, like you can do it. And honestly, I did this thing. And so my very first home loan was basically a cash out refi. I paid off all my credit cards, and my son got hurt because he loves to skateboard. And man, I wiped all that out just because of that lease option first time. And it wasn't even a first time home buyer. It was, like I said, it was a cash out refi was my very first home loan.
So everybody, the reason why I invited James to join us, there are a few reasons. I guess the number one reason is James has a lot of experience door knocking for pre-foreclosures, foreclosures. And so I thought listening to James' experience would be valuable for all of you, since that's the theme of this Elephant Challenge for with that pace set for us. Also, James is, as he said, 9 months into his journey with Subto. So he's already done a few deals. I think, considering some people take a year or more or two to get their first deal. James is well on his way to a successful new career here. So I thought, his experiences, so he's like 15 to 18 months behind where Patrick is right now in that same kind of journey. And
Love it.
and James has done things a little differently than you did, Patrick, but they're parallel paths.
100%. And
Yeah.
this is really fitting because last night I was thinking about this. I'm just minutes away from getting a contract in Texas. It's going to be a wrap deal eventually. That's the exit strategy that I'm thinking. And I've just been thinking a lot about this lately because I'm in my own business working with my acquisition guys, and we're closing multiple contracts every month. And so now that we're working with the baby elephants, I'm seeing leads come in and stuff like that. And I was really thinking about it on a high level and thinking, what's the one metric that you could pay attention to really elevate your business? And really that one metric, guys, and this is so important. So if you're here in this meeting right now, again, be with us, be present, take notes. If you're on your phone, get off your phone, be with us right here. This is really, really important. The number one metric is conversations. The number one metric that you can track is conversations. How many conversations did you have every day? That's what we're actually tracking right now. And by the way, when I say acquisitions business, we're doing wholesale in California. So in my wholesale cash business in California, what we're tracking is how many connections they made on a daily basis and how many of those connections were unique, right? So how many people are they reaching out to in their network and how many of those people are new to their network? And we're looking at that very, very closely. So a lot of investors that I talk to, they're like, oh, I'm just struggling with it, or I don't know enough, or I'm working really hard, but I'm just not closing any deals. If you really were honest with yourself and you wrote this down somewhere, or you put it in your computer somewhere, and you actually tracked how many conversations you were having, you would see whether or not you were going to be successful or not. That is the biggest thing, guys. And so James is out there taking action. James has closed deals before, and that's really the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from this. Because that lead that I got that's in Texas, that came from a baby elephant. He's not in the mentorship, but he's out there, he's making calls and he's knocking on doors. Now, when it comes to go ahead.
Can we ask everyone who's here to say yes if you were here Monday for Monday's unbelievable share session that we had on foreclosures? Wasn't it amazing? It was so amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome to get the perspective of people going through foreclosure, right? Get the other side of the story. And so like the last Subto that I closed, I asked the guy after we were in a contract, I said, hey, Richard, I'm just curious, why is it that you accepted my offer? Because I know that you were talking to a lot of investors. And he said, well, you seem to know what you were talking about. And you were really the only investor who asked what was next and what I needed, right? Understanding where they're coming from, understanding what the next steps are and how you can use creative finance as a tool to accomplish what the seller actually needs, right? This Texas deal that we're about to open escrow on, I asked them the same thing. What do you need? Do you need help? How are you going to move? Do you have somewhere to go? Do you need cash? Like, what does that look like for you? Right? Luckily, the guy has a plan. He doesn't really need a lot of help, but that was a question that I'm asking him. And because of that, he's picking up my phone calls. He knows that I'm actually not just in it for the cash, which, full disclosure, I told him, look, I'm an investor. I'm trying to make a profit, but I got a heart and I want to help you out. So tell me where you're at. What can I do to help you? Really, really important, guys. So again, conversations. How many conversations are you having every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year? And if you look back, you can really see, okay, am I on the right path? How many contracts did I get? How many of those did I close? Right? And then you can really start to look at what you're doing in real estate as a business. In the chat right now, I want a yes or no. How many of you are addressing real estate, your real estate business, as a job? Yes or no? And remember, if you have a job, you got to show up on time. You got to wear the uniform. You have to show up like you're focused. If you don't, what happens? They shit can you. right? So yes or no in the chat, how many of you guys are addressing your real estate goals like an actual business? Okay, we got some serious people in this meeting. I guess all of these Zooms have paid off, Gary.
Well, they're starting, yeah, well, you just got to keep working at it. That's what it comes down to. So James, on Monday, we were talking about foreclosures,
Okay.
and a couple of the people like Rome I see, and maybe we got some really incredible personal shares about what it was like to go through foreclosure. And one of the members of the meeting, she was actually going through it now. So we're going to try to see what we can do to help her in through that situation. But it, everybody who was with us got a remarkable inside look at how people feel and how it makes them feel. And let's face it, that this is all about how people feel, what they need, the shame and pain that goes along with this. At least what we do to ourselves, I think maybe is worse than what other people do to us. So I just wanted to let you know that, to have that background when we're talking. But I think that you sharing your experiences at the door fronts would be really great.
Yeah, so right when I jumped into Subto, that was one thing. Like I'm in San Diego, and everybody kept talking about door knocking, foreclosures, the fastest way to get a deal, and it is the fastest way to get a deal. But you also have to understand where you're at to do that. In California, I had to kind of learn a little bit of the hard way, and which is fine. It was totally worth it. But we have a lot of like stuff that there's a lot that goes into the foreclosure in California. These people can do all kinds of stuff with the grants. They can kind of push this stuff around, and they could be. It seemed like most people in foreclosure have been in and out of the foreclosure process for like the last 5 to 10 years. It was absolutely amazing, and so, I mean, I probably door knocked solid 7 days a week. I would leave my house at like around 9 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't come home till like 7 or 8 at night. And so it was all day, all of San Diego County, and all kinds of crazy stuff would happen. The people are definitely going through stuff. You really have to understand that it's such an emotional experience for them. There are crazy stuff that happens door knocking. I've had multiple guys want to fight me. I had this dude who was inside. He let a dog out. I mean, I was sitting there knocking on the door, and I could hear the dog going
All
crazy.
right. So what was the very worst story that you had door knocking?
Well,
And we'll go on to the best, but let's put a baseline under this.
okay. So the absolute worst thing would probably be
The
the guy
dog.
bite me, but the dog was pretty funny because I'm sitting there knocking on the door, and I could hear the dog going crazy in the inside, and the guy wasn't coming to the door, and I actually had to step over this like 3 foot fence, walk into his property because it was like a little kid's fence, walk up to his property, and then it was another like 15 feet to get to the door. So I'm sitting there knocking, the dog's going crazy. And he's trying to get the dog to be quiet. I knock a couple more times, and then all of a sudden, I just kind of hear this slider on the side or on the side of the house, and the slider opens, and sure enough, here comes a dog running around the corner like full bore right after me. And so I'm running away from the dog, and I jump over this little fence, and my back foot like catches the fence, and I roll. And so that was a lot of fun. It was pretty scary at the time. I mean, it wasn't crazy big dog, but still, like, dog super aggressive. Like, I don't really want to deal with that. So that was by far the worst experience. But I will say I had my best experience. And honestly, I didn't make any money out of this, but this was absolutely probably one of the best things I've ever done in my whole entire life. Is I ended up door knocking this woman. She was 76 years old, basically blind. She could read a little bit, but the paper had to be like real close to her face, and she had this crazy machine to read the paperwork. But I door knocked her the first time, and she was super scared, didn't want to talk to me, just shut the door and was like, "Oh, I'm busy," gave me some excuses. I go back a week or two later, yeah, it was about a little less than 2 weeks. I go back there and, you know, I ended up talking to her again and she let me into her house and we started talking and she, you know, I could tell that she couldn't quite see, but then she really like opens up and tells me about she's blind. She has no family, 76. She's living on a reverse mortgage and she was in this foreclosure process. She had no idea what was going on. And she was on a reverse mortgage. And so it ended up I looked through a bunch of her paperwork, really trying to figure out what was going on. Her and I ended up contacting her mortgage company, and they didn't even know what was going on. They didn't know why she was in this process as well, too. And yeah, basically, long story short, we were able to resolve that. She got situated, and her auction was about a week away from that last time I visited her. And so when we contacted the mortgage company, they were basically able to stop everything because, like I said, there was a miss up on the paperwork that she was getting. And she, like I said, she couldn't read very well and she had nobody to really help her do any of this thing. So we ended up, you know, basically saving this lady from getting foreclosed on for somebody else's error, really. So she got to stay in the house and like it was truly amazing.
Well, that's fantastic. Good for you, man.
Good.
Would you
So somebody,
question?
yeah, question. Did you catch that question?
Yeah, there's a pretty good question actually in the side chat.
What's your opening line?
Yeah, what's your opening line through the door?
Hey, if anybody wants to ask James direct questions, raise your hand. Okay. That's
Cindy
what he's
just
here
messaged
for.
me personally, and she said that she's sick and she
Yeah,
has.
I got that. Yeah.
Yeah, my opening line I would always say is like, yeah, I'm just here reaching out to people that are having issues with the bank. I would never say foreclosure. I would never say any of that because, you know, in some states, you also have to know that you can't really say foreclosure. And plus, you know, it's such a sensitive word that you don't want to just come out and say foreclosure. I mean, I felt like I would much rather put, you know, the bad element of the bank. So I'm like, hey, I'm just here, just reaching out to homeowners that are having issues with the bank. And that would kind of catch them off guard. And then they'd be like, well, what do you mean issues with the bank? And then you're kind of like, you know, the house mortgage. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of in foreclosure. And then, you know, depending on the people, you know, we'd have a conversation.
Yeah, being in person too, like, I mean, the trust level goes through the roof. You know, when you
Sure.
meet somebody face to face, you look them in the eyes and you shake their hand. It's a different listening of who you are and what you have to say. So, I mean, that's why really, well, that and the fact that people go into ostrich mode, you know, during that notice of trustee sale, those 2 points really make door knocking effective. And so to your point and what you mentioned earlier, guys, if you're going to go out there and door knock, I would highly recommend that you would go with somebody else, like a partner, and especially if you're a female, just for safety's sake. I have actually door knocked before, and yeah, you're gonna basically peek into the personal life of somebody every time you knock on somebody's door. So it's kind of a personal and sensitive thing to do. So make sure that you guys are using the buddy system. And right now, guys, in the chat, if you're open to knocking on doors, put your city in the chat so that we know where you're at and so that you guys can network right now. That's what these meetings are about, guys, is meeting other people. We got 55 people in this meeting right now. So inside of the chat, link up, guys. We got people from LA, Rancho Cucamonga, Simi Valley, Georgia, Hawaii, Connecticut. So yeah, if you see somebody from California, shoot them a message. Give them your cell phone and link up, guys. That's how I met Gary. I met Gary. We just met online. I was like, hey, let's chat. We got on a Zoom.
I'm serious. Mike, you want to go with me? Mike,
We're in the same neck of the woods. We cover one ground.
you go with me, man.
Cindy, it got you out of bed?
I've been keeping Mike busy. I'll be surprised if he has time.
I was a
Be on
little
film
worried
at
about
halftime,
that.
All right, Cindy, talk to us as long as you're out of bed. Well, you got on mute.
Important to say.
You keep muting yourself.
Look at me. No, I'm sick, but I missed Monday, so I didn't want to miss anything. And I was teasing Mike because I want to go with him. He thinks I'm kidding.
No, I don't.
Mike, are you
Yeah.
door knocking as well?
You know, I haven't done it before, but I'm not
Let's
opposed
go.
to it.
Let's go. The blind leading the blind.
Right now, guys, in the chat, if you see your city, direct message that person, give them your cell phone so you guys can link up and knock on doors. And so what James was saying earlier is come from a place of helping and open with, hey, I'm just here because we're working with people that are having an issue with the bank. And I just wanted to see if I can give you any assistance with that issue. And then that's going to open them up, which is, I think it's a great line because like he said, they're going to respond with, well, what do you mean? And that opens up the conversation. You know, well, we noticed there was maybe some issues with the lender on your mortgage, and we wanted to give you a hand with that if you're open to it. And you also have to remember, guys, like a lot of these people, they want to save their homes, you know, like, so for me, and again, guys, I've already openly mentioned this, that I'm not a foreclosure expert. I don't focus on foreclosures. We've got 4 in our pipeline right now, just because they come to us organically. But one thing I do know is that you kind of want to get to a point where when you're speaking with the seller, figuring out what their goal is, number one, like what are you trying to accomplish here? You want to save your house, and then figuring out if that's possible, right? Like, so for example, if they've moved out of the house and they don't have income, it's probably not going to be a case where you can they can salvage the situation, right? They're probably going to have to work with you. And in some of these cases where you may be doing your due diligence and really trying to help these people out and doing everything that you would normally do to do that, it just gets to a point where it's on the 11th hour and they've got no other options but to work with you. And you've already built that rapport. You've tried to help them through their situation, and them selling to you, whether creatively or for cash, is actually the best option for them because it's going to help them with their credit and seeing that. James, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, to me, like, if you're in that process, and for you people that don't understand, like, I feel like subject to by far is one of the best tools for people that are in the pre-foreclosure or in the foreclosure process. I mean, because if you can get the arrears paid off, you get the loan reinstated, you know, at that point in time, now, you know, whether they, and especially, I mean, unfortunately, if they have to move out and go start somewhere else, then, you know, that's really unfortunate, but it's kind of part of it. Like, why are they in that process from the get-go anyways? Maybe they couldn't afford it, job, whatever the case may be. But, you know, subject to on those type of foreclosure situations, like when you pay off the arrears, it gets it back in good standing, and then you're paying the mortgage on time, which is rebuilding their credit. So it's by far one of the best things that you could do for those people. It's better than doing the BK or short sell or any of that stuff. So it's actually, you know, you're doing them a tremendous value, and it's rebuilding their credit. So in 2 years, hopefully they're back at like being able to buy a home.
Yeah, 100%.
And I also got to say, like, I did door knock probably well over 1,500 homes as well.
Wow.
That's what I was going to ask.
Did you save more than that? Just what, that one lady's house?
No, you know, she was the best one that I saved. I mean, I gave a lot of people, I mean, in California, there's so much stuff that they can do with these grants and stuff. And once you kind of like clue them in on the grants and they figure that out, you know, I mean, it's, I guess in one way it's great for them. On the flip side, you're like, wow, you didn't make a payment and here you get $80,000 free. So, kind of mixed emotions on that one. But, yeah, I mean, you know, and that is the thing is, most people do want to save their home, you know, right. And it is truly heartbreaking when you go to a house and there's a family in there and they got kids, and it is extremely emotional because a lot of times when you're knocking, when there was a time when I was knocking on the door and the kids are like, mom, somebody's at the door, and the parents would be like, shh, just trying to get the kids to be quiet. So, you know, you really
It's
have
a
to
bill collector, a creditor.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it is. And that's why a lot of these people are hard to get. You know, if you're trying to call them on the phone and you skip trace them, and all of a sudden when you skip trace them and they got 6 to 8 numbers, and that's the reason why they got 6 to 8 numbers, because they're changing their phone numbers, the bills are a mess, and they're hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
running.
Did you ever get a phone number that was a former deadbeat's number?
A former deadbeat's number?
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times.
Oh
I got
no.
new phone numbers, and then I'm getting called by all these creditors
Oh, you
Well,
get it.
for Celeste or Lucy or Jose or who knows, you know?
Well, I did skip trace this one. I was door knocking this one lady, and I kind of kept talking to her, and she'd brush me off, and then I ended up skip tracing her because I was like, I'll just call her as well too. But her boyfriend was like a crazy wacko drug guy, and he thought I was trying to hit on his girl, and like he calls me up acting like he was in foreclosure, started drilling me with all these questions, and I'm like answering everything, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere he just flips it and he's like, so what are you doing with my girl? I'm like, what do you mean?
So I was going to say, was that in a good way or a bad way? But I guess it was a bad way. Huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a
Ty,
little.
Ty, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, I had two questions. One is, so what besides like county listings, were there other ways that you were able to get good leads on properties or contact information? That's question number one. And then the second one was, if like what are maybe two things that you wish you knew then that you know now when doing the door knocking?
I like those questions, Ty.
Were those to me specifically?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wish I would have knew more about the uh the laws of what they can do in California, because you got to kind of understand that. And also I felt like another thing that I really want to know is, before I was just going after everybody who was in foreclosure in San Diego County. And if you look at like I use Property Radar. That way I could see where they're at with their mortgage and everything. And a lot of people would have super high equity in the properties. So, if they have really high equity and stuff like that, then, that it's hard to do something with those type of properties. And unfortunately, those really are going to be a short sell type situation. I mean, you're going in there thinking Subto, being able to do whatever you want with the Subto by buying and holding it or wholesaling it off to somebody. But that, yeah, I think just understanding that, because then more towards the end, I really started focusing more with properties with low to no equity that were in the foreclosure process, because that would be something that I could actually like Subto and get a hold of. So I would hit those up a lot harder. And how I was getting my leads, I was going down to the county of San Diego, the assessor's office. I was getting leads from there. I was also using Property Radar and using their technology. And then I would also cross-reference it with auction.com as well.
Any follow-up for that, Ty?
I've got several, but I think that helps a lot. I have a lot of basic questions about what you just talked about, but
Ty, I got your messages on Circle, and I actually filmed or I recorded a video for you. I'm gonna post it on YouTube, buddy. I appreciate you. You've been doing work. We're looking at your opportunities, okay? So keep it up.
appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, James.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ty's gonna be a beast in a
Scotty
year.
has a question. Hey, guys, those of you asking questions in the chat, raise your hand and join us.
The websites. So Property Radar is just a real estate software program. It's kind of like Privy, Batch Leads, PropStream, all those. It used to be called Foreclosure Radar. That's why I kind of jumped into it, because they used to specialize like more on foreclosure stuff, but now it's kind of changed, and I like it. I think it's a great software.
It's free, right, James?
No, it's actually, you got to pay for it. It's you can either pay for it monthly, and it's about 90, maybe a little under $100 a month, or you can buy a year subscription and you can save like 20 or I think about 20% doing the year
Is that
subscription.
propertyradar.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Then auction.com is free. So that's a great free site, and they'll actually tell you, you know, when the auction dates are. So you can get that for free, and then you can kind of see it. So, and they're the company that actually runs the auctions down at the courthouse.
There you have it. Scotty, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. Patrick, Mike, thank you very much for what you guys do. We really do appreciate it. You spending the time with us to help us get through all of this. James, thank you very much for your story so far and the information you're giving us. I really appreciate it. A couple questions for you. One is, when you are door knocking, what type of paper do you carry? A clipboard, or do you bring a bunch of stuff? And then also, when you find somebody, or when you get to somebody that has the resources to solve their problem, do you help them perform a resolution or to help resolve their problem, or do you just turn them on to another website, go on from there?
No, so I really didn't try to take any paperwork or anything with me. Like, I really wanted to just go up there. I didn't want to scare them off, and you know, for them to be like a little hesitant, as you know, because I kind of felt like, just talking to other people, that if I'd go up there with a clipboard and maybe super dressed up, nice. I mean, I would go there with a button-up shirt and look like casually nice, but not overly done, you know, because I didn't want to scare them off. I didn't want to intimidate them by me dressing up really nice, and looking like a business person, like I was actually coming in to buy the property. You know, I really wanted to go there, and definitely I wanted to help them in that situation, but obviously I wanted to be able to make some money. But going through this situation, you have to be willing to help. And then if you can help them, the money will come for sure. Like, it's out there. And then I was leaving like little handwritten notes is what I would do. Just real simple. Like, I would just go to Staples or something, get a 5x7 card, to keep it real blank. And I would do a couple things. Say, at first I was saying, "This is James, give me a call." And then I wasn't really getting any calls. And this is kind of, could go either way, because some people definitely got upset about this one. And then some people would be cool and open up. I'd be like, "Hey neighbor, give me a call," and then leave my phone number. And then they would call you up and they'd be like, "Hey, so you're my neighbor?" And you're like, "Yeah, I live in the area," and then we kind of go with that. But if I would put neighbor, I would absolutely get calls for sure, more than just my name and phone number.
Words
Thank you. I
that get
appreciate that.
called. I love that.
And
There's,
so
there's a nugget, right? That's a gem.
yeah, so that's really good information. And so, Scotty, there's another guy in the mentorship. God, I can't recall his name, but I know all he does is foreclosures. And I was watching what he was doing, and he would have listed out the steps to what you can do to stop foreclosure. And so, because the common thing that you're going to get when you knock on these doors is you're going to have them answer, and they're going to say, "Well, I'm already taking care of it," right? You're going to get a lot of that. And so what I know he would do is he would hand them the piece of paper and he'd say, "Okay, cool. Which one of these steps are you taking?" Right. And he would want to get them to see where they're at, or answer, and just continue that conversation. And again, come across as somebody who's just there to help. And if they don't want the help, that's fine. Because there's a lot of, and I've also heard stories where the initial meeting, they don't want any help, right? They don't want to talk to you. And then the follow-up happens. And then there's more follow-up. And then on the 11th hour, they end up selling their house because there's no other financial way out of it. Right. And really, that's what you have to get to. You have to get to the point of, can I help this person? And are they out of options? Right. If I can help them, great, give them resources and let them navigate it and follow up. Or if you can get to that fork in the road and decide, okay, well, look, you've already told me that there's no income and you don't have this. So I know that you're not going to be able to apply for this grant or this loan or whatever. And so you have to keep this in mind. I mean, do you want to foreclose, or do you want to actually save your credit? And those are your options, right? I'm not going to force you into anything that you don't want to do, but I want to be here as a net to catch you if you're going to fall.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. And basically, you were kind of asking earlier, Scotty, and what you have to do, I feel like, is, in that situation, you really have to just paint them a picture. so they have a better understanding. That way they can make a way better educated decision for them on what they need to do. Because you can also get in a little bit of trouble if you go in there and tell them like what they should do. So, you know, it's really like, it's better to just lay out all the options and start painting the picture. Like, okay, well, we could do this, we could do that, you know, and then just have a conversation about everything and then kind of go back and forth. And then they'll realize that, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do that. And then I can't do that either. And then stuff, or I don't want to do that. And then, you know, and then you're just like checking the box, you know, you're just getting rid of a few things. Cause there's, you know, a handful of things that people can do in the foreclosure process for sure.
Yeah, guys, write this down. If you're in this meeting, I want you guys to write this down. Uncertainty is the source of all stress. Okay, write that down. That's really important. Uncertainty is the source of all stress. And if you can educate yourself enough to be able to outline the options that somebody has going through a foreclosure process, that alone, that education process for them alone will help reduce a ton of stress. And you're going to build a massive amount of rapport with that seller that you're working with. They're going to have a different listening of you through the process. They're going to pick up your phone calls, answer your text messages. And if they have to, they'll work with you on selling their property.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Scotty. All right, guys, any questions so far on what we are covering? Cindy's got her hand up. She's,
You know,
waving.
I have feeds from auction.com already. I've been getting them forever. The reason why I haven't been actually acting on them, I thought it was too late when it's on there. I don't know why I thought that. So I'm literally getting feeds like 2 or 3 a day. So I guess my question is it any time that I can go after it? I thought once it's taken over and it's going to auction, then you have no way of negotiating. I guess I'm not, feel stupid now. I had all these leads coming to me. So what's the window when you start seeing them on, if they put down like auction is in Ventura on September 10th? What's the window that I could go after them?
You can go
from my experience, you never really know until you talk to the seller. Like the Texas
Okay.
property that we're working on now, the last thing I heard, their auction was next Thursday. I talked to the seller today and they were like, oh, they pulled it off auction. It's not going to go to auction on Thursday. So you never really know, number one. And,
Okay.
you know, I think what James told us earlier too, was he was like, I wish I would have known a little bit more about the process, because in California, for example, there's 3 months and then there's 3 weeks. So you have notice of default for like 3 months, then notice
Okay.
of trustee sale for 3 weeks. And the majority of these properties, from my understanding and my experience, the majority of these properties, a high percentage, 90% and above, they go under contract within the last 48 hours of before auction. Right. The seller has no other choice. And they finally say, okay, fine, let's get under contract. I'll do it. Right. So that's really the sweet spot, is that last 3 weeks. And the way I look at it is it's basically 2.5 weeks of rapport building and educating, and then like 3 days of trying to get it under contract. Right. Like that's literally the timeline.
And then
James, has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, but you know, the trouble with California is, and this is one thing that I couldn't quite figure out, is because when you watch auction.com, there were so many times where I'm like, okay, like I had this one guy in Oceanside, he haven't paid his mortgage in 3 years, completely cracked out on drugs, and I'm like, and I've been talking to him for a long time. And I'm like, there's no way that he's going to be able to change his auction date or anything. And then all of a sudden, and his auction would be like in less than a week. And then so I'd be following up with him like the whole time. And then all of a sudden, 3 days before, boom, he could change his auction. All of a sudden, the auction got extended out for next month. And so he did that 2 or 3 times. So that is a challenge in California, because they can change the auction somehow with paperwork and just dealing with the banks and stuff.
The banks,
All right.
the trustees actually change them because they haven't perfected their file. So they'll
Okay.
kick it down. But there are lots of ways to get that delayed. Show them a listing agreement often that you put the house on the market, or a sales contract that we got a buyer. Things like that are great ways to push the auction date out.
There, is this the piece, he had 7 steps to ask, is that what you guys are talking about?
Seven, yeah, I shared the document.
Yeah, I think there's like 7 steps, like the personal loan, do they have an agent, loan modification, have you considered a rental, cash offer, no equity, renovate, bankruptcy? He had like a checklist. I'm gonna, if you find it, can you post it somewhere?
Yeah, I've just got it. That's what I
Because
was.
Mike and I are going.
Yeah, I just here. I'm going to paste it in the
And
chat.
I also want to re-highlight something that James said that's really important. And he's actually said it a few times, and I want to make sure that you guys hear it again. You got to be careful as to how you're presenting yourself, what you're saying, especially what's on record. Like if you're emailing these people or texting them, you're not here to give them legal advice, and you want to make sure that you phrase it that way, right? And usually when I'm talking to sellers and or agents, what I'll say is, if it were me, John, this is what I would do. But that's just me, John. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to kind of show you what your options might be, and then you've got to make that decision. But I'm here to help.
Well, sometimes even a better phrasing for that is to say, well, is it okay if I run some ideas by you?
Right.
You
Ask for
get their
permission.
permission, and then, that's, you're being the vulnerable one rather than them. It just that turning that phrase a little bit. So, and once they give you permission, well, here's some ways that we know work. But everybody, just if you're grabbing that document and you weren't here last week when we talked about it, do not ever suggest they file bankruptcy. Suggest find a good bankruptcy attorney to recommend to them instead. Say, I know this will stop it, but it has all kinds of other consequences that a qualified attorney can discuss with you. But there, like we talked about last week, some really dreadful immediate consequences to filing, such as turning off all your available credit immediately, your credit cards, everything. So be careful with that one. Don't recommend it. Just mention it. Say, if you like, I know a bankruptcy attorney I can recommend. Okay. Sorry. Take her back, Patrick. Cindy.
Sorry, I love it when you interrupt me. It makes me feel like I'm at home.
No, that was my question. And
I'm be sure to interrupt you at least 10 times during dinner tonight. Robin and I'll have a good time with that.
I'm sure I can count on it.
Okay.
All right, Kalila. What's up, girl?
Nothing
Let's
much.
bring her up.
I just had a quick question. Is there a different approach if you're going to a homeowner that probably is in a neighborhood that's a more expensive neighborhood, like the bigger homes that may be in pre-foreclosure? Is there a different approach you would do to a homeowner like that, or it's all the same? If that makes sense, what I'm asking.
Yeah, honestly, those are kind of tricky people, because there was a few of them that I would go to that were yeah, I remember this one house in particular. They were in foreclosure. I come up to the house, multiple massive RVs, and he had like 3 or 4 Porsches in the driveway, and you're knocking on the door, and you try to talk to somebody like that, and they kind of feel like they already have it all figured out. So I didn't really, with those type of people, to be honest with you, those people are kind of hard to get through, because somehow they got so successful that they made so much money. They got to buy all these crazy toys, all these like really nice homes and stuff, and then they got into this situation, right? So I feel like those are kind of tricky people. If you can go to somebody else who, I want to say is more middle class type, you can have, I felt like an easier conversation, because they're sometimes maybe a little more down to earth and that you can talk to because of the situation. Especially, maybe me coming in, like talking to them, and I don't know, it could go either way. So they were definitely a little tricky.
Gotcha. Just thought I would ask. I can see why you say that though, James. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, actually. And we, even with what we're calling on, right? Like, so Mike and I were making calls today, and we're calling on investment properties, actually. And so you're just going to get a different level of sophistication with price points, right? And so you have to be ready for that. And at the end of the day, if you're coming from a place of helping people, I always say that you're always going to come out on top, right? Like that's the intention you should always hold and see where they're at. Like I had a seller who's walking away from like $75,000 of equity. And if you put that down on paper, I would have never said that somebody would do that, but they're doing it, right? So you really never know until you have that conversation.
Gotcha. Just at the end of the day, just treat them as a human. Don't look at what the material possessions that they have, because they go through things just like the typical average household. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And so I've said this a lot in other Zooms too, because what stops a lot of people from doing any of this is fear, right? And it's the fear of looking stupid or not knowing what to say or being embarrassed. But there's two things. Number one, I've already mentioned it, come from a place of helping people. And two, it's what I call like redefining your role in the company. So if somebody asks you a question that you don't know, you say, you know what, John, I'm actually just here doing my job, trying to help people out of this situation. And my job is to gather as much information so that I can see if me and my partners can help you. So I don't really have an answer to that question, but next time I see you, I will. Right. And that allows you to give yourself permission to go out there and really put yourself out there. And then that's the best way to learn, right? They ask you a question, you know the answer, but next time you get answered that question, you'll know because you'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
Hey, Kalila, before we end this meeting, we'll probably end around 4:30, but I want you to jump back in so we can talk about the property in Georgia, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Oh, you
Cool.
guys are working on a deal? Great.
We're always working on it, baby.
Hey, James, is that QR code the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah, absolutely.
James
And
is
then-
willing, by the way, everybody, James is willing to work with you as well, one-on-one on some of these deals. You could bring deals to him. You can find him in circles, scan his QR code. And
There's
it
my
appears as
Instagram.
though, what's that? Yeah, right.
Something like that. There it is.
IG, yeah, okay.
Right.
And Ty is back for round two.
Sorry.
Are you gonna compete? You're gonna end up being a competitor for Cindy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frequent flyer miles are racking up.
But I had two questions, sorry, really quick. Is there because I had a lead that I was working on, and I found out they were actually in probably pre-foreclosure. I didn't know what that was before I today's call actually. But is there a dollar amount that is like too much? Because this listing that I was looking at is like in the 8 million. And then the second question is, they're actually obligated to a capital company versus a bank. Is there like do you typically try to stay away from like non-bank institutions and then also certain dollar amounts when you're looking at foreclosures?
So the answer, unfortunately, is it depends. I'm gonna post that video because you submitted a couple properties that were, one was 4 million, the other one was 8 million. The $4 million property I actually underwrote, and I break it all down as to why it's not a deal. But it looked potentially like a deal until you really dive into the numbers. And this, I would say, with the luxury properties, they're a little bit more advanced. Number one. Number two, you have to have, it's a smaller buyer pool, right? In any sense, in a cash sense, in a financeable sense, in a creative financing sense. So you, number one, have to either have the risk tolerance to take on something like that, or you have to know somebody who does. So that's why with new investors, I typically recommend that you guys stick to price points that are a little bit closer to the median in each respective market. Okay.
You mean
Now,
a lot
again,
closer.
a lot closer. Right?
You're being delicate there.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot closer. But again, Ty, I don't want to say that that's not necessary. Those aren't necessary opportunities, because they could be, and I have the means to raise capital in those situations. But for those that are getting started, really my goal for you guys is to get a deal, number one, then to get a deal every month, then to get multiple deals every month, and then to either join a team or start one, right? That in my mind is the progression of an investor. And if you keep focusing on these deals that take a longer amount of time, that have a smaller buyer pool, you're not going to make as much money.
Yeah, start with a single family house rather than a skyscraper,
Right.
right?
You had another question, Ty. I can't remember what the second question was.
It was just more of if you're dealing with an institution that's not a bank, because one of the ones I had was like a capital management company that was actually owned the note to the home that the person was trying to get rid of. So,
Probably not a good idea for Subto.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, unless you have a track record, they're probably not going to want to work with you.
And that's the problem with some of these 8 million, 4 million, $10 million homes. They're financed commercially, or they're financed in unique ways, private equity funding, and those you're not going to get away with Subto so easily.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I will say, yes, I agree with you. And I do know somebody in the mentorship who's going after luxury properties specifically, like around anywhere from like $3 to $5 million. And what he's been telling me is that they're more willing in a lot of these cases to take 100K and walk, and the entry fees are anywhere from like 3 to 7%. So when you look at the numbers, there's actually more net cash flow, and the entry fees are lower. So there's better cash on cash returns, which I thought was extremely interesting. But anyways, that's a side note. Again, guys, I would stick to median price points.
And there it is. I'm going after one for a client right now. They're asking 4.5 million, so I should be talking. But there is some wisdom what Patrick's saying, but you either need, if you do go ahead and take down a monster like that, are you going to be able to you best have an instant dispo strategy. Otherwise,
Right.
you're going to be carrying a big, $25,000 a month nut. So
Right.
potentially. So
yeah, and
Mike,
he's smart. The way he's doing it is he's opening escrow with minimal EMD and putting that at risk, and then trying to get applications as a rental in escrow. And he was telling me on the last deal he did, he had 30 applications in escrow, which I thought was extremely impressive. But anyways, that's all side stuff. Mike, how's it going, man?
Hey, good. I'm doing great. This is excellent information. This is a question for any of you guys. What's the prime window of time to approach people in foreclosure? Is there a window that's more valid or easier to reach and talk to? Are they more open to listen? Maybe at the latter phase versus the first 30 days? And
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, obviously James focuses more on this than I do, but I think it's in that last 3 weeks. Like I said, the most of these transactions happen within the last 48 hours of the auction date. And that 3 week period of time is basically just you introducing yourself and being consistently in their face to let them know that you're always going to be there and that you want to be top of mind if your last resort.
okay. This is another question. Maybe James could help with this one. If you knock on doors and unable to get somebody to open, because some people probably are just stubborn, they're not gonna open the door to anybody, no matter if they're home or not. And so, do you leave cards, notes, or anything at the door to follow up for those kind of people?
Yeah, I left little just blank little 3x5 cards that would say, "Hey neighbor, give me a call, James," with my phone number.
I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that was it. I didn't. Before I was doing something else, but then I changed it to that. Hey neighbor. Before I was like, "Hey, give me a call. This is James," with my phone number. I would get a few calls, but when you put, "Hey neighbor, give me a call," it was a huge difference. Like, they were definitely calling. And like I said earlier, some of them would be a little, because I'm living in San Marcos, some of them would be in Oceanside, and then that would kind of throw in a weird little kink in the situation. But, once you kind of get over that kink and start talking to them, it'd be fine. But some people definitely didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it got more people
mailers
calling.
too?
What's that?
Would you send mailers out as well? Or
Me personally, I never did, but that was actually that is a great way to do it, because there are other Subto students out there that are in the mentorship, and the more that you can contact these people with your name, your info, the more that they're going to see it. So if you can door knock them, and call them and send them something in the letter, you know, you're kind of in their face all the time. And then your name will be right there to where when they get down to crunch time and, you know, like what Patrick was saying, most of these people will wait, and absolutely for all foreclosures, they're going to wait until the last minute because they don't know what to do. Most of these people are so like, just like scatterbrained because of everything that's going on. So,
Right.
you know, they're going to be making the decision like the last couple days or maybe that last week for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Mike, I'm gonna post a link in the side chat for you. It's a video called How to Build a Real Estate Business. Watch that video. It's real. I talk about marketing. I talk about spending marketing dollars and when you should do it. In my opinion, I don't think anybody should jump into this industry and start spending money. That's my opinion. I think you need to get the reps. You need to get your processes down. I mean, we're generating a pretty good amount of money in our business, and we're not, in my opinion, not even dialed in yet. And we're not even spending money on direct marketing yet. So again, I think it's a, from my opinion, I think it's a large mistake for people to spend money on marketing unless they've got the sales down, they know how to run the transactions. So watch that video. It's in the side chat for you guys. There's also some other resources in there. You can submit your deals on that last link. And then there's some other key videos that you guys can watch. So check it out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Cindy,
Cindy's back.
tie 2, Cindy 2. They're tied.
Sorry, no. I just had a quick question. I scanned. Stop it. I scanned you, James, and I have no idea what this blank is. So I'll download the app that you're using, but that's fine. I'll figure it out. It's a business card, right? You're a digital business card. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what you do. You scan it and then it'll have all my information and you can get a hold of me.
Is that like blink?
Well, you got to follow the link and then you'll get.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have it. I just sent him a thing. I had no idea what I'm doing. I'll figure it out. Just quick question. Why would we go, not why, because you're obviously a nice guy. Difference between you and Patrick as far as Subto and what you're looking for. How do we I kind of process things. I kind of filter things like
No one said that there's an or there. There's an and there now. We're just
Yeah.
we're adding
Are you talking about like a buy
opportunities.
box? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if let's just say I go out with Mike today, he's not going to go. I'm going to go by myself. It's fine. I'm always doing things by myself. But let's just say I found a lead. Who do I send it to? Do I just put it in the lead thing and you guys sort them? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I mean, if it's in regards to foreclosures and you need help with specific foreclosure, guidance, I'm not the best resource. Openly,
I'm
I'll
saying
say
a
that.
lead, but our leads, who do we send? We still send them to you, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
So the
that's
list
all
that
I
we
need.
provide
Regular
you guys-
wholesale leads, yes. If you
That's all I
guys,
wanted to know.
I brought
Those of
James
you-
in because he knows a lot about working foreclosures and he can help you too. And he's
Right.
willing to help you and work with you to help you close deals.
He's actually
Yeah.
in San Diego. My sister lives there, and there seems to be a lot of foreclosures. She lives in Rancho Penasquitos, actually.
So for those of you guys who are new in this meeting and returning, in the link that I just provided you guys where it says resources, if you go to that page and you opt in on the next page, we provide lists for you guys to call on. These are vacant properties that have low interest rates. There's also low equity properties that are on market for over 60 days. There's also scripts. There's other resources on that page. So if you want something to call on and somewhere to make money, those are the lists that you want to take a look at, because those are all areas that I'm actually purchasing in. So the reason that we're giving you the lists where I'm purchasing it, for obvious reasons, but it's faster for you guys to actually make money because I'm going to be performing on those contracts. Okay. So take a look at that. And if you have foreclosures that you want to bring in the James, guys. He's got information. He'll help you with them. He'll help you work the leads. Again, I don't position myself as a foreclosure expert.
All right. For all of you nodding off, here comes your wake up call.
Maria, what's up?
Pleased to bring Maria on again this week. So Maria, tell us what you really think.
Oh, goodness gracious. Are you really want to hear it? It could be, we can be here until, cows come home. Listen, question. Speaking of foreclosures, and we talked about foreclosures on Monday, and I have my personal experience as a realtor working foreclosures. And I live in considered small area because I'm in St. George, Utah. Who is familiar with Utah? I'm close to Las Vegas. James, you see, you're not nodding. Obviously, you know where St. George is.
Yeah, I've been there. It's got a great
Okay.
space.
Yeah. And like, for example, I would never ever knock on doors in Las Vegas. Like, you can pay me and I won't do that.
No.
Because I hate the city, and also you never know what you can face in Las Vegas. St. George, it's more fun. It's safer. Let's put it this way. So speaking of that, it's quite interesting market for foreclosures. Again, hearing from peace, and again, what I know, when the population is less than 500,000 people, pretty much there is not much dispo. But would you still recommend to, deal with foreclosures, like in places like St. George in particular?
Are you referring to like creative deals or cash deals, or what do you?
Pretty much, yeah, like pretty much all the above. Obviously, wholesaling will be way harder because it's not much dispo, only if people are in Salt Lake and they're crazy and they want to buy something in St. George, which is nothing new. That's what's happening because we're flooded with California and Salt Lake in this essence. But dispo, I don't think so. We're really good place for this reason, but for creative deals.
Yeah, I'll give you my opinion on that. I'm not super familiar with the real estate in that area, but what I would say is if you look at sub 5% loans in the area as a rental and they cash flow, then I would say you're not going to have a problem dispositioning creative deals. It just depends. Like the my buy box, the areas that I'm buying in, the gross rent margins are the best in the nation. That's why I'm focusing on those areas. In other words, the rents comparatively to the value of the home, the ratio is really high in terms of rents. And that's why I'm focusing. There's also other criteria, appreciation and, demographics and stuff that I look at too, but that's why I'm focused on those areas. So what I would do is I would look at, at sub 5% loans, do these actually cash flow? If I were to assume this loan today, could I break even and or make money in my first year? If the answer is yes, then I don't think you're going to have problems finding buyers. For cash deals, you can actually look at the flip volume in that area using Privy. So we're in California, but so we don't do any cash deals outside of California, but you can use that program to take a look at the actual liquidity. I know that Florida, Texas, and California are always in the top 5. Always, they have the highest volume of trading. So I don't know really where Utah stands, but that's a program that you could use to see. From my experience, you're going to have an easier time finding cash buyers than you are. And when I say cash buyers, I mean anybody who's looking for a flip. I think there's more people in the market for flips than there are creative deals. At least they're more accessible and easier to find. With creative deals, you basically have to put it out there and see what comes your way. And then you have to have a vetting process for those people that you're wholesaling your deals to, right? So it's just not becoming popular. I mean, 2 years ago, the mentorship had 200 people in it. Now there's 12,000, right? So it's becoming more, I don't want to say common, but more known. And so the buyer pool is growing, so to speak.
Yeah, it's really saturated, and like Salt Lake is extremely saturated. And again, we have like literally, it's like the last event, and you can look at Salt Lake City, and we're getting close to California. It's not even funny. St. George is the same way, James. I don't know when you were in St. George last time, but now if you don't have $1 million in your pocket, you can't buy anything. It's like, yeah, stay away.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with St. George. Like I drove through it one time. I was there for a whole afternoon, and it really seemed like I was actually honestly just kind of blown away at the scenery, all the rocks and everything. It looked like a gorgeous like little town city. So I mean, you know, if you have all that and you have $1 million homes and stuff like that, there's definitely rentals there. I mean, there's definitely real estate investors. So I can't imagine you'd have a hard time finding either cash buyers or somebody for creative there, because you know, like there's real estate investors in almost every town in every city, you know.
I know
It's
Pace is purchased in Utah.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I mean, literally, you guys, it's crazy. I've been here for 20 years, and I moved from East Coast, and I'm like, what the hell? Where did I move to? But now I'm looking around, it's like, oh my gosh, I think I'm in the best state. Like seriously.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I got
mhm.
off the phone a few days ago with a seller, and he has a whole bunch of properties. I can't remember. He probably had like 20 or 30 properties, and and most of his properties were in Kansas City, but he had a good majority of them were all out in these really small little towns. And this guy had been buying real estate most of his life. He was an old farmer, and he just started buying these little like homes in these really small farm towns. And he was like, they're never vacant. They're always busy. And I was just like really blown away at that. So, you know, every real estate investor is different. Everybody's got something that they want to go after. Most people, when you talk to like the bigger investors, are definitely going to be heavily invested in more of the popular cities and areas. And they're not really thinking about the small towns, but, you know, so, you know, everybody's kind of different. And talking to that guy, it was um pretty eye-opening, because like when he was like, they've never been in vacant for the last 30 years. He was like, as soon as somebody moves out, somebody moves right in. So he was like, I've never had any vacancy issues, and these are all really small little towns in Kansas.
Awesome.
Yeah, and one thing that you want to do, especially with creative, Maria, is you want to have a
Mhm.
buyer in mind. So if you're thinking about targeting a specific area and a specific mortgage and transaction history, for example,
Mhm.
then post it on social media or in one of your real estate groups and say, hey, I'm looking at, you know, sub 4% loans with low entry fees. I've got a few leads that I'm working on my pipeline. Who here's buying that type of thing, and see what the response rate looks like. Just know that most people are going to raise their hand and a fraction of them will perform.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that's no wonder. Gary, and now I have a quick question to you. I don't know if you dealt with novations. My daughter is actually a broker in Salt Lake, and she has one client, and this woman is literally slowly but surely moving towards foreclosure. She's still current on her payments, but the house been sitting on the market for 4 months. And my daughter called me at 6 o'clock in the morning today, and she's like, Mom, we need to figure something out. I'm like, really? Now you decided to call me? I've been telling you about 4 months. But the situation is, seriously, she's like, yeah, you and your creative deals, blah, blah, blah. That does not beyond the point. Speaking of brokers. But anyway, she called me at 6 o'clock, and she's like, Mom, seriously, she's going towards foreclosure, and
Let's
she has cancer.
put the address in the chat.
You know what? I don't have an address, but next time I will do it
Okay.
for sure.
Well, what's the question?
The
Yeah.
question is, her basement is not unfinished. And I told Arena, I said, listen, let's assess her basement. Let's finish her basement and sell the house, like rebrand it, sell it, stage it, and stuff like that. When you deal with novation, does agent charges commission too, or it's just what came out of profit from selling the house?
Are net listings permissible in Utah?
Good question. Probably. I mean, she's
That's
a
one
broker.
way to structure it as a realtor. Another way I think should work for in every state is a lease, a purchase agreement, and an option agreement. 3 separate documents. That's well structured, could probably work.
Mm-hmm. Got
Okay,
it.
so I'm not in love with the current structure that we have in Subto.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's problematic, especially with some escrow companies not understanding it. And, but I think the future might be, and the way we look at things is constantly evolving. Even the way we do sub-twos has changed over the last few years that I've been in over 3 years I've been in the mentorship. We've changed the way we do them. We've changed process and standards. So we're continuously evolving, trying to get better, trying to protect everybody in the transaction more thoroughly, more effectively, more fairly. So it's a process. But when it comes to novations, that's a tricky deal structure. And I don't know Utah real estate law. So like I say, when I say to you, I think that lease, the 3 agreement structure, lease agreement, purchase agreement, option agreement, together hold potential to work in every state. But I certainly haven't vetted it. And I came close to doing one here in California that way, but it didn't quite work out. But so that's one structure. But you and your mother are both in real estate agents, so find out what net listing could work for you. Just be sure you know what you're about to spend, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes,
Make
yes.
sure your listing agreement is long, right?
Yes. Listen, I own construction company, so I'm.
All right. Well, then you know your costs really well. So,
Yes.
right.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys.
Sounds like a perfect partnership. Ty had a good idea. If you want to take it on, he was asking about a breakdown of an existing lease listing to see if James, or I guess why can't I make the little thing go away?
As long as we've got time, I do have, for those that have submitted deals, I do want to go over.
Oh, okay. So we won't take on any new ones. Patrick, we're still meeting for 5. We got to finish on time tonight, or you can.
We got to get that pizza, man.
I got to get out of here because I'm much farther away from where we're going than you are.
All right, let's pull, if I can, if you don't mind. Can we pull Kalila up here?
Who? Raise your hand. Kalila? Oh, I got Kalila. I got her.
She raised 2 hands for you. Okay, Kalila. So what's the deal? So you spoke to an agent. What is the last terms that you pitched to the agent?
The last terms that I pitched to the agent was I had said that we can do 5% down, which will be like a earnest money deposit. And then I also said that with the balance, it can be divvied up into equal payments. And when I was speaking with the last leader that was working with me, he suggested to divvy up into divided by 360, and that will be the monthly payment. So if you do the math on it, it's around
30-year amortized, 0 interest. But when's the balloon?
we never got to the balloon.
Okay. So that's why I didn't want to call, because I thought you said 3-year balloon, and I was like, that's not going to happen. Okay. Okay. So you didn't talk about it.
What I was saying was, when I initially said from a high level how we can structure it, I misspoke on the text message with that. And then when I actually saw them in person, I said it correctly, because I think that's what led them to ask me, how would you get the property to cash flow?
Okay, so here's what I'll do. I'm going to pitch that as, I'm going to say, I'm going to give you 5% down. We'll assume the loan. I'll break up your seller carry back into a 30-year amortized 0 interest. And then we'll start from there. They're going to counter. They're going to want interest, because you went from market interest to no interest. So they're going to meet us in the middle. And then I'm going to counter.
Well, let me say this, Patrick. When I countered, I said the best we can do was 3% on the interest, because they said market interest.
What's the note interest at right now? Do you know?
I don't know what the note is because the agent said that the house was on free and clear. But when you look on PropStream, there's debt on the property.
Okay, interesting. Okay. And then do you know if it cash flows at 3%?
That it looks like it may not, because looking at the rental rate in the area, it's around, I want to say maybe 1,800. And then, but I saw between 1,800 and 3,500 is the rental gap. So I needed to
Oh,
kind
that's
of,
so huge. That's
right,
not, yeah,
right.
no.
And so I was trying to actually do more research to get a more defined gap rental rate. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of where I am with it.
Okay. Good work. I'll give the agent a call and we'll continue the negotiations.
Okay.
Guys, give Kalila some love in the chat. She's out here doing work. Having conversations, guys. Having conversations. Good job, girl. Appreciate you.
I think I'm gonna say this one thing and I'll be quiet. I think the only thing that I have to work on is being comfortable talking numbers when it comes to not getting too detailed where I start fumbling over my words, but say enough to where I feel confident in what I'm saying. Because I believe that's what, well, I'm not gonna say I believe, I know that's what happened when I was texting back. I was too excited. Like finally somebody saying something bad and I said the wrong shit to them. And it's like, oh man, I need to go back and correct this. So that's
Good for you.
one takeaway that I'm learning now. And
Yeah.
so
Good for you. And the more underwriting you do, and guys, if you're listening to this, the underwriting sheet is on that resources link that we gave you. Pull some addresses and start playing around with that spreadsheet, and we'll cover that on our Thursdays. You're going to get more comfortable with having these types of conversations. But to be honest, I know underwriting, I can do it in my head. I could do very complex things, but I never present numbers to people in the initial phone call. What I'll usually say is, well, what we typically do in situations like this is give you X down, we'll give you monthly payments, and then we'll, balloon you out at X time, or we'll take over the loan until maturity date or whatever. And then they'll say, well, what do your monthly payments look like? And then I'll respond with, I don't know. I have to underwrite it. But before I do, I want to make sure that you and your seller are open to the idea. And then they'll say, oh, okay. Right. So that just opens up the conversation. Cool.
cool.
All right. Good work. And I'll update you when I got more.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Gwendolyn also has a deal that she's working on, and I'm sure she's got questions for me.
Well, my hand is up to find out. My video doesn't work.
Okay.
To find out what you're using to record the calls when you speak to agents.
Just Zoom.
Zoom?
Just like we're
I
doing
didn't
now.
know you could do it.
So yeah,
Oh,
just
that was
call
Zoom.
from your phone, put it on speaker, and put your phone close to the mic, and then just record yourself on Zoom. You don't necessarily have to have your camera on.
It looks like this. Bottom of your phone is usually where the speaker is, so you're talking like this.
I think it's the other
Right.
way around.
No,
I'm not gonna.
no, the speakers are
Not
usually,
on my phone. It's the way Gary
if it's
said.
on the top, then turn it the other way, but wherever the
That's
speaker
okay.
is. On Android, it's on the bottom.
Gwendolyn, when are you gonna walk that property?
Could you repeat that, please?
When are you
When
walking
am I
that
going to
property?
walk? I'm going out there on the 3rd of October to meet my GC out there.
Okay.
Don't I need to get it under contract before I do that?
No.
No.
It's this with these creative deals, you got to negotiate your terms first. And so I didn't understand your message about underwriting. Did you pay somebody to underwrite the deal?
I did. And what they sent me back was the exact information that I gave them to use in their underwriting. And then they told me that that was their underwriting. And I said, well, this doesn't look like any underwriting I've ever seen in the community. So then I'm arguing back and forth with Jennifer Cortez while she's trying to tell me this is it. And I'm thinking, no. So I decided, at the end of that, I said, well, you know what? I'll take it to the community and let them tell me if this is underwriting or not. I am too new at all of this social media REI to then waste my time arguing. I'll just go to the experts and then I'll come back. And if
Yeah,
I'm
send it to
wrong,
me.
I'll be the first one to apologize.
And you
But
don't
I
need
need
to
to
pay.
get my
yeah, send it to me, and you don't need to pay people for underwriting because we can underwrite, and you need to learn how to underwrite because if you don't know how to do it, you can't negotiate. And if you don't know how to underwrite, you also can't hire somebody to do it for you.
Look, two things to be in this business and be successful. You need to be able to underwrite. You need to be able to comp. You can't even underwrite unless you can comp. Because if you can't determine an accurate ARV, there's so much, all your underwriting falls off of that or pivots around it. So, you know, guys, these are the two basic skills you need to learn. And it practice, 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 practice. Maybe we should have, you know, remember the underwriting clinics we used to run, Patrick?
Yeah.
With the early team. I mean, Patrick was like the ultimate drill sergeant when it came to comping. But do yourself a favor, look up Jamil Damji. If you don't know that name, that's the name you got to know. Jamil Damji. Get on his YouTube channel and watch some of his comping sessions.
Well, I can do my napkin underwriting, but I need a professional to go through and do the deep dive.
No, you don't.
That's what I need.
You need to learn how to do it. You don't need a professional. You need to be the professional. Start learning.
I'll get there,
Start by
but-
learning comping. Start with
I will-
comping. Underwriting's
I will
easy.
def-
The spreadsheet that we provide you, all you need to do is plug in the numbers to it, and then I'll do it. But seriously, start practicing your comping.
And I would start with multifamily. You're taking on some big dragons here. Luckily, you've got me, King Arthur, but seriously, really start with like,
Yes, I will.
you like that reference, Gary?
And we're just knights
I will
at the round
definitely-
table here, right?
But seriously, start
And circle is really
master
Camelot.
Underwriting.
if you do 20 single family homes, you're ready to do a multifamily. All right, Gwendolyn, I appreciate you. Send me that information and we'll continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Gwendolyn.
We're coming up on 4:30, guys. If you have questions, now's the time. You know what blows me away is I get, I don't know, 20 DMs a day, and then we do these meetings for 90 minutes and I don't have any questions come my way. It's like they want to just DM me. I don't know what it is. Dylan has raised his hand.
Yeah, Dylan's going to gratify
What's up,
that
dude?
statement.
What's up? I just had a question because I'm still kind of confused on this. So you know how when we figure the net equity at ask,
Yes.
and it's like 10% of the transaction, and we try to keep everything like the entry fee at 10%. Are these two separate 10%? Is like the transaction cost going to be 10% anyways, and the entry fee is a separate 10% that we're looking at, or is it both in one? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're talking about the 10% that gets taken off the top of the asking price.
Yeah.
That's so when you go into a negotiation with an agent, you could say we'll take a stab at giving you an offer for the full asking price you're asking for, but we're going to come forward and we're going to pay the commissions for that, the closing costs for that, and on average, that comes out to about 10%, right? So the net equity to the seller, or the net equity past, or gross proceeds, I should say, is 10% off of that offer, right? And then you have the outstanding loan, and then that gets you to your net equity to the seller once you subtract that, and that you usually want to be at about 10% as an entry fee into a property.
You're getting confused about the two 10%. They're completely unrelated.
Yeah.
And so just so full transparency, the 10% isn't always accurate. It's a national average. It depends on the market. And so if you ever have somebody push back on that, like an agent who's like, oh, they'll net more than that, go, oh, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I got my numbers wrong and that's fine. I'd love to open escrow and get a net sheet done if they're open to this idea. And so you plant that seed of them. You create a presupposition of them doing business with you when you say that. And you also don't argue with them about what they're netting. You're on their side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then the last thing I'll say is a lot of these agents don't even realize that there's low equity on these properties. They don't even know that there's a note, like they don't even have a fucking clue.
They don't care.
But
They
yeah,
don't
or
care.
they
That
absolutely don't care.
because it doesn't factor into selling the home as far as they're concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm blown away. It's amazing at age agents when they don't know anything about the property or about their mortgage, any of that. And it's mind blowing. You're like, well, how do you help them if you
Well, what's
can't?
it got to do with selling the house, James? As far as they're concerned, nothing, right?
Exactly. Completely 100%. You're right. It does nothing. It's amazing.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. You know, it's just this, it's a starting point for the conversation, you know, and then again, if anything, if there are any questions they ask that you don't have an answer to, just tell them, look, my job is to gather as much information so that we can see if we're a fit. I just wanted to see if you and your seller are open to this type of transaction. And I'd love to pass you over to the managing partner at the company so he can continue this conversation with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you
Dylan,
too.
I want more addresses in my inbox, bro. What's up?
I'm working on it.
Get out there and make some calls, bro. Appreciate you.
And last call, as far as I'm concerned, if you guys want to hang in here, I'll make some.
We got a San Francisco 49er fan. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm Daniel out here in Fresno.
3-0, baby.
Hey, yeah, exactly. I'm happy to see that. It's my first time hopping on your call because it's kind of in a weird time frame for me. So I was happy I was able to jump on today. This calculator, it's pretty intense. This Facebook video right here on the side shows it, huh? Shows how to use it.
It doesn't, it's not something you can access unless you're a Subto student, that video.
Oh, okay, got you.
So don't be surprised when it crashes on you, the link.
Okay.
Not the
No
spreadsheet,
worries.
but the link. Maybe I'll do a training session on that for this crew.
I think we should just post our Thursday link. I think we pressured enough people into taking action at this point.
Keep it in the Thursday community, action taker community only.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we open it up to everybody or should we just have those who submitted links?
I think stick with the original
plan. All right, guys. If you didn't record calls, you're not getting a link.
I've been
Action takers only.
Daniel, so what else can we do for you?
Well, no. I mean, I'm a realtor too, so I'm a newer realtor out here in Fresno. I'm just kind of figuring out balancing my leads in real estate and trying to become an investor at the same time. So I'm trying to balance them all at the same time, and it's kind of hard right now.
If I were to give you any advice, it would be to focus on one thing because you're splicing your energy. I was focusing on everything when I first started, and I put everything on hold, and I just did cash wholesale deals. And now we have a business, and now I'm creating another business that has to do with creative finance. So, and I've got agents on my team, bro, who are walking away from their retail business.
Okay.
Right. So that's my opinion. You know, again, it's just my opinion, but I think that all entrepreneurs naturally want to have multiple projects in the air. That's just a natural way of an entrepreneur to operate. But the successful entrepreneurs, the ones who are making serious money, they have the ability to focus on one thing.
All right.
Jason Lee, we can't end this meeting without saying what's up to Jason Lee.
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
What's
Can
up,
you hear
dude?
me?
Yeah, we got you. What's up? How are you?
I gave you the controls.
Yeah,
you can.
I think my question is exactly that on